Hello. All right, let's get clear on whether or not clutter-free gifts are actually right for you and your family. So, this time of year, I see it all the time. Moms are starting to ask about what to do for the holidays. They're talking specifically about what kinds of gifts to give, how to have conversations with family and friends about what gifts they can give, and they're generally overwhelmed. And that's understandable because it is a very intense time of year. It is centered around consumerism, and in places like the US and Canada, and maybe even parts of the UK, it is very consumerism focused. And that brings a lot of stress to us moms, especially because most moms are already living in cluttered homes. So, today we're going to talk about why moms want to request clutter free gifts or experience gifts, what's actually behind that desire and that request, what gifts actually are, and how to kind of shift your focus around family and friends who give you and your family and your kids gifts. How to focus on your ideal Christmas situation and your values, and how to decide whether or not clutter free gifts are actually right for you. So, down in the description, I actually have some old podcast episodes that I recorded. The first one is why I don't do experience with gifts with my kids. And then about 5 years later, I recorded another podcast about why I changed my mind about experience gifts. And I'm not going to talk too much about it on this episode, but I will have an updated version of that coming out soon. Okay, so moms request clutter-free gifts or experience gifts during the holidays and birthdays because their houses are cluttered and they are overwhelmed. And the thought of getting more gifts and more stuff in their house pushes them over the edge, especially because a lot of grandparents, family, and friends like to go overboard and give our kids a lot of stuff because gifts are an expression of love. Right. And so the reason that moms aren't able to accept these gifts with gratitude and appreciation or a sense of ownership of really understanding that the gift is in the giving and it is an expression of love, the gift is not in the keeping, is because their houses are cluttered already. And that's kind of the thing that sets them over the edge. What I want to tell you is that number one, you are the gatekeeper of your home, which means that whatever anybody gives you, you are free to keep or not. Now, I will have another episode on like how to set boundaries with family and friends if they truly are giving you too much and they are not listening to your requests and they are going overboard. We'll cover that. But for the most part, we can control our houses the other 360 days of the year, right? Without having to hyper focus or feel like we need to control or stop other people from celebrating and being generous towards us on these very small few days of the year, especially when they're during times and celebrations and seasons where generosity is the goal, right? Giving is the goal. Gift exchanges are the goal. So if you can control your house and take ownership of your role as the gatekeeper of your home every other day of the year, it makes it so that you are in a place where you can actually accept gifts with gratitude and a grateful heart and declutter things freely, whether it's the gifts that don't line up with your life, you don't have room for, or decluttering your own stuff to make room for the gifts. And I'm saying that as somebody with experience because we have 5 kids total. And prior to decluttering, I dreaded holidays. I dreaded getting gifts. I dreaded hand-me-downs being given to me from family and friends, whether it was hand-me-downs for my kids or hand-me-down furniture from my in-laws or hand-me-down decor from my in-laws. Like I dreaded it. I was so overwhelmed by my home that I could not see the generosity. I could not see the gift as an expression of love. I just saw it as a burden and a nuisance. And that's not a great place to be because we all want to feel gratitude and appreciation, right? So, what ends up happening is that moms are overwhelmed by their homes. Maybe you are overwhelmed by your home, and you say, this holiday season, do not get us gifts, or only get us these kinds of gifts, or you make requests for experience gifts, and nobody really knows what that is. I have a podcast episode on that down below on how to request experience gifts. If you get to the end of this episode and you're like, yes, I still want to request experience gifts, exactly how to do that. There's a podcast episode. I'll make a YouTube video for it soon. And once I do make the YouTube video, I will put it down below. But what we end up doing is trying to control everybody else, right? Rather than taking control of our own homes, we try to control everybody else. And that is harmful to our relationships. And I know that because you're listening to this, you are somebody who values your relationships with the people in your life who matter more than you value stuff. And I know that you don't want to have your relationships strained over pointless stuff, right? So if it's a matter of like disrespecting your boundaries, that's another story. But if it's a matter of like once a year or during holidays and birthdays, or your family likes to be generous with you, is it really worth ruining your relationships over that? Or is it worth you taking ownership and controlling inside of your home and controlling what you decide to do with the stuff that is given to you? Because you are not obligated to keep it. And if somebody in your life makes you feel obligated to keep it, that is a boundary issue, right? If somebody's giving you or your kids a gift, the gift is when they gave it to you. The gift is not when you keep it forever, or oops, my bread is ready, or when you feel obligated to keep it forever. So that is the first thing that happens is we kind of get into a battle of wills with the people in our life and trying to control them and what they give us and how much they give us. And that is hurtful to the relationships, right? The other thing that happens is we say things like, instead of doing presents this year, we're only going to do experience gifts. And I understand this in theory. And moms will say, we're going to travel somewhere instead. And that's great. That is wonderful if it's aligned with your values. But what I see oftentimes is people trying to replace going over the top and the consumerism of gifts, right? And things with going over the top and the consumerism of travel, right? And if that's what you want to do it. But a lot of times that just adds more stress because maybe you don't really want to have a holiday spent traveling. Maybe what you really want is a simple holiday at home with your family, opening up a very curated amount of gifts that are really special and you just have a cozy day at home. Like maybe that's your ideal situation. But you're basically, a lot of us are taking the root issue of our houses are overwhelming. We are overwhelmed by clutter and stuff. And instead of taking control of what we can control, which is ourselves and our own stuff, we decide to try to control what other people can give us, or we try to bypass the reality that our houses need decluttered and we are overwhelmed by stuff and replace it with something like travel or experiences. And not to say that anything is wrong with that, but if you're using either of those as a way to avoid decluttering and simplifying your relationship with stuff, then it's never going to work out. It's going to continue to feel not great for you, right? So how you decide if clutter-free gifts are right for you is just get clear on your values. And I am just going to share with you my viewpoint on how I like our holidays, our Christmas, because we celebrate Christmas, to be. I'm going to tell you openly, we celebrate a cultural Christmas. Okay. We are not a religious family. So for us, we are celebrating a cultural Christmas, which means that the values that we have as a family are family time together, gift giving and receiving, thoughtful gifts. I truly believe that if you can give somebody a gift that is thoughtful, that is one of the most loving things you can do. That's what our Christmases are spent doing, is a cozy morning at home, exchanging gifts, enjoying our time together, baking, having fun, and just kind of splurging and celebrating in that way. And we can do that because every other day of the year, our house is not cluttered. It's not overwhelming. We have the space to do that, and that is aligned with our values. Other people might say this is a deeply religious holiday for us. So we're not going to do any of that. We are not going to do the gift giving. We're not going to do the Christmas tree. We're not going to do any of that. We are going to go do it this way. Maybe your family values travel. So you do decide that you want to go do traveling. Maybe your family values volunteering. So you go do community volunteering. Whatever it is for you, there is no right or wrong answer. You've just got to decide what that is for you and then make it happen. And for us, that is a pretty classic cultural Christmas experience, because we don't really do that the rest of the year. We aren't buying a ton of stuff the rest of the year. We aren't really getting gifts and stuff just because that is our moment to get it just because we want to enjoy it, just because we want to have fun. We want to go a little over the top with the gift giving and receiving. So think about what that actually is for you, and deeply consider the fact that you probably need to declutter your home in order for any of that to happen. in order for gift giving and receiving to feel good, and in order to feel like you can actually give and receive freely without it being overwhelming, you probably need to declutter. If you want to travel, you probably need to declutter. If you want to do all of these things, you probably need to declutter. So there is a free decluttering challenge in the description of this that you can get. You can go also check out the other playlists that I have if you want to just listen in on those, but I recommend signing up so that you can get the checklist and the emails and the reminders. They go into a lot more detail. But yeah, those are my thoughts on clutter-free gifts. They are not a blanket solution. It is not a blanket solution to just ask for experiences. That's very unclear. People don't often know what that means. And it's often unfulfilling to just do that, right? For some people. So if you're interested in hearing more thoughts on that, check the description below because I've got more on that. And yeah, let me know what you think down below. Do you do clutter-free gifts for your kids and your family? Do you do a combination? What do you do? I'm just curious to hear what you do down below. So let me know, like, subscribe, and I will see you around.